It's Tuesday, July
Yeah.
23rd, 2019, 6 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m., 62 degrees outside. Oh, I hate Tuesday. You know I hate Tuesday, right?
I know you do. This is
It's a worthless day. There shouldn't be a
that's
Tuesday.
right.
I want a congressional executive order where Tuesday's just off the calendar. Yeah, it's just
Yeah, yeah.
just gone because it's like a second Monday. It just I don't know. There's no the only redeeming value of Tuesday is Jeff Kraus is here. That's the only redeeming reason. If Jeff
Yeah,
wasn't here, I'd just stay in bed and phone this in.
that's right. It's one of those. Okay, it's elongated. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We're happy to have you with us. Thanks for joining us on the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Always happy to have you along with us, and thank you for spending your morning with us. Take a quick look at, let's see what our weather's up to, Shane, because, it's supposed to be pretty nice this week. We got showers yesterday. I didn't think we would, but we got a little bit and a little thunder here and there. So
Yeah.
that was quite a shock. But anyway,
Any lightning?
lightning, yes. Lightning, yes.
Ooh.
Thunder, yeah. Dogs are going, what's that? What's that? I don't like that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when dogs howl in the daytime.
Yeah, they don't like that. Well, we got a slight chance of rain before 8 o'clock this morning, and then a chance of showers and thunderstorms afternoon, increasing clouds with a high near 90 today, and calm wind becoming northwest around 6 o'clock, and a chance of precipits about 40%. So I'd look for a little rain today. We weren't going to have any rain, but kind of moved in on us.
Yeah.
And then tonight we got a chance of rain and thunderstorms before midnight, then a slight chance of rain at between midnight and 1, and cloudy, then general clearing toward daybreak with a low around 60. Northwest winds 5 to 8 miles an hour, beginning southeast in the evening, and the chance of precip again is about 40%. So we're going to have rain today, but it's going to be nice on Wednesday, sunny with a high near 87, and it's going to be pretty nice there. Mostly clear on Wednesday night with a low around 51, and Thursday, sunny, high near 84, and Friday, sunny with a high near 87 for our little get-together at the Grand Tree on Friday night. So that should be pretty nice. And Friday night, there is a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms before midnight. So mostly cloudy with a low around 58. So we got a pretty nice looking week ahead of us, Shane, and for our little get together. But we'll see. Temperatures around the area right now: Manhattan or Livingston rather is 66. Manhattan is 60. Let's see. Gateway is there at 66. And Ennis is at 60. Big Sky's at 57. Belgrade's at 61, and we're right at 62 here in our lavishly appointed studios in downtown Bozeman. And they are lavish, as you will see on Friday when you're here in person. Shane's coming to town in person. What do you think?
I don't know. I think you need to paint the place just a little bit.
Well, we did paint the place. I mean, we painted it.
That's
The previous the previous host painted it.
like in 15 minutes you could paint it.
Well, yeah. He used one of those brushes that Da Vinci used, and you're ready to go.
Exactly. 4-inch wide brushes still take you 15 minutes. It's such a big room.
Well, our poll question of the day is already attracting a lot of folks. After President Trump told congresswomen who are U.S. citizens to go back where they came from, do you still support President Trump? And so far, 93% of you say yes, 6% of you say no. So
there you go.
I guess we'll see how that plays out when people start waking up and see the poll.
That's right.
So we'll be talking about it. Oh, let's see. Other things we got to talk about this day in history, of course. This is the 23rd of July, and a lot happened today. In 1829, William Austin Burt of Mount Vernon, Michigan, received a patent for his topographer. a forerunner of the typewriter.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, when you think about how far 1829, that's just incredible.
Well, they had they had a printing press way back then, so they had to.
Yeah.
I guess they had to write everything out in those days. So.
Yeah, well, the printing press, was interesting the way they built it, and then it was developed further where they'd carve out, all the letters and put them in. But can you imagine doing a newspaper? No wonder it was only 4 or 5 pages long.
Oh yeah.
You had to literally, set the printer with all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't easy to do. Anyway, Bert's 1829. Nothing really happened with it. I mean, he got the patent, but it was his grandson who built it. For what was it? It was one of the big shows that his son built it for and took it to, and later in the 1800s. So it really didn't pick up any great interest until the turn of the century. And in the early 1900s, became very popular and obviously influenced business a lot because the production changed it overnight. Everything could be typed now instead of handwritten, as you said.
Yeah. Well, that's
one of those small inventions that changed everything radically, right? It really did.
Definitely. 1885, Ulysses S. Grant, the 18th President of the United States, died in Mount McGregor, New York, at the age of 63.
That's right. Oh, and before I leave, Bert, just real quick, he also created the solar compass and the equatorial sextant, which made it instantly possible for people to determine where they were on the oceans or anywhere in the world, and as a navigational aid to determine, with one observation, the local, location of a wagon on the pier, on the plains or a ship at sea. Anyway, Ulysses S. Grant, huge number of things that we've talked about it, several times because we sort of talk about him every year. But I think the most important thing to talk about today, aside from the kitchen cabinet he created, and he was a famed general from from the Civil War and so forth. But in his later term, Compromise of 1877 was his probably most remarkable thing that he accomplished, which was the removal of the remaining U.S. military in the South, because up until the Compromise of 1877, there were generals that were basically overseeing and running the southern states, and so he thought it was time to remove the balance of the military from the South, and away went the Democrats, and Jim Crow laws and so on and so forth. They were pretty brutal still to the African American after that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you're on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Hey, guys. It's Aaron. How you doing?
Good, Aaron. How are you?
Good. Going to work.
All right. Good for you.
Yeah. I got to go.
Live the American dream. Go for it.
Live the American dream, yeah. Hey, I was kind of thinking, if you take all the partisan bickering out of the news, there hasn't been anything really newsworthy this summer. I mean, there's not
really. Not really.
No. So the reality of it, if you get rid of all the Democrats hating Trump news, we're actually humming along at a pretty nice clip, and we got we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd say so, yeah.
I think globally.
Oh, yeah.
Cops aren't getting shot.
Mm-hmm.
Towns aren't getting burned down. I mean, the country's actually in a really nice place.
Well, except for Iran, but they're just they're desperate, so they're doing what they're doing.
Well, their douchebaggery doesn't really count. They've been douchebags for since I can remember. I remember seeing, was it Iranians that had hostages in planes when I was a kid?
Oh yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I think so.
And,
so, that's been going on. But I mean, overall, in the country, all they can complain about is that it's summertime and it's hot somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're doing pretty good, man.
Well, I would agree with you. The markets are good. We've had the longest expansion in, I guess in history, something like 11 years. 11 years of expansion. So We can't fault that too much.
No mass shootings.
Yeah, we haven't had any
No,
of those for a while, and yeah.
no black people that don't have any arms getting shot.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
been
going
a pretty
good.
it's been a pretty calm summer so far. No riots,
Yes, it has.
nothing
No.
like that. So yeah,
I really don't believe that the news media likes that.
yeah.
I mean, they gotta gin up.
Well, they got
gin
to
up
sell
all this
papers and put people in front of the TVs. Of course, they don't like it. They got to make up the news. Come on.
Right. So it's your guys' job to get this out there.
Well, that's right. That's what we're doing. Hey, we're helping.
All right.
All
right, man.
buddy, thanks. Oh.
Thanks a lot. Good call. All right. Take it easy.
So bye-bye.
All right. Bye. All right, we got to take a break here. We got to take care of the farmers and ranchers and cab drivers and truck drivers. We got the Headwaters Livestock Report as well. So stay tuned for all of that. It is coming up right now. 18 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m. Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019, 61 degrees outside. I'm not sure what happened to the Montana Ag Report, but it just, I hit the button only once and it went away. So I apologize
it flew
for
by.
that.
It went over everybody's head.
It did. So I apologize that we didn't have the livestock report today, but we did get Jeff McGinnis in. So I guess that's a good thing. But, yeah, I don't know. The button must be touchy this morning. I don't know. But anyway, let's take another phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you're on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Yeah, my name is Al, and I want to say two things.
Sure.
I believe that in the late 70s, the Shah of Iran made a terrible mistake by going to... Okay, I'm not saying that going to America to seek medical treatment is a bad idea. I'm saying that specifically the Shah of Iran in the late 70s going to Iran to seek medical treatment was a bad idea because it allowed for the Ayatollah Khomeini and his buddies to take over and what's known as the Iranian Revolution, and we're living with the consequences of that 40 years later. And one more thing.
Sure.
9/11, happened on a Tuesday, and at that time, shortly after that, there were some commentators, for example, Ann Coulter, Paul Harvey, who attempted to call it, Bloody Tuesday or Terrible Tuesday, but obviously 9/11 won out. So. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. I just had the urge to call in and participate in the radio show.
Well, good. Well, I appreciate you doing that, and thanks for listening. And you're absolutely right on everything you said, as far as I could tell. So,
okay, have a good day.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, the Shaw wasn't a nice guy. I mean, you were in bed with a pretty bad dude in the Shah of Iran.
Well, first of all, we installed him.
Well, yeah,
and then
that's
General
the
Schwarzkopf Senior,
senior,
set up the SAVAK, the secret police, and that's why General Schwarzkopf Jr. led the invasion against Kuwait, because he'd been raised in Persia, in Tehran by his father, and spoke Farsi. Knew most of the people in Iran, in the Shah's group, and so on and so forth. So anyway, long story short, yeah, it's amazing how certain things result. There are no coincidences.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that we certainly didn't support the younger people when they wanted to overthrow the Ayatollahs at the time, and we kind of backed off and let them get slaughtered.
That's true too.
Unfortunately, otherwise things might be different today too. But that was a point in time when everybody felt we were needling in everybody else's business, and it wasn't any of ours. So if George Bush 41 had continued on into Iraq when he did Kuwait, things might have been different. I don't know.
Well, the Ayatollah Khomeini and to the present Ayatollah, they've killed tens of thousands of people and imprisoned several 100,000 people. So I mean, they're typical dictatorship.
Not nice guys. Yeah, that's right.
Not at all.
Well, continuing with this day in history, 1945, French Marshal Henri Pétain, who had headed the Vichy government during World War II, went on trial charged with treason. Henri, treason, really?
Yeah, and he really became a hero or the Lion of Verdun because he was given credit for the winning the Battle of Verdun. I'm not so certain that was a fair thing, but he was voted commander in chief and field marshal. He commanded in interwar periods the French army, commanded the joint Franco-Spanish operations and the Rif War, which is nothing to get into. But the interesting thing is in 1940, he was the one who signed an armistice with Hitler. And then Germany occupied France in November 1942. And he had a puppet government in, as you said, Vichy France, which after the war he was tried and convicted for treason. He was originally sentenced to death, but he died in 1951, I think at the age of 90 or 91 in prison for working with the Nazis.
Well, in 1952, on this date, Egyptian military officers led by Gamal Abdel Nasser, get it in a minute, Gamal Abdel Nasser, overthrew King Farouk I.
Yeah, and it led to, oh my goodness, I can't think of the gentleman's name after him. 2 or 3
Sadat?
leaders based. Thank you, Sadat. Yeah, Nasser to Sadat. I guess the biggest thing to remember about him was the Suez crisis and his attempt to attack the Israelis. But the interesting thing is that in 1967, after the Six-Day War, he was driving one night out, and he wanted to go to a Russian camp that was, and he drove up, got out of his car, and walked up to the gate and asked the guy to open the gate. He wanted to talk to the commander. He said, "No, you go away too late," and wouldn't let him in. He said, "Do you know who I am?" He said, "Doesn't matter. You can't come in here." So he went home and wrote up an executive order, and the next day announced that Russia was leaving Egypt, because he figured he was the president of his country, and if he couldn't get into a base, under Russia, that was a danger. Long story short, he got whacked, and then, as you said, he was followed by Sadat, and Sadat made the great peace after losing a war, and that's sort of where we stand today. But both were members of the Brotherhood.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, in 1967, rioting that claimed some 43 lives erupted in Detroit back in the 60s. Of course, we had a lot of riots back then.
Civil War.
California,
Alabama, Georgia.
Oh, yeah. No, there was a lot of that going on. That was the time when America really, really changed, I think. We lost our innocence in the 60s, I think, a lot of...
That's right.
To a certain extent, where politics became the order of the day, and people took sides, and
people talk about doubling down on things today, but if as a nation, you doubled down on the war in Vietnam. So
right? Yeah, that was the dividing point, and then people found other ways to divide up after that.
Yeah, the white people were really opposed to that, and then you had the civil rights movement. And then those terrible assassinations, King and Kennedy. Everything sort of came to, just bam, right?
Yeah, just kind of all came together at once, and there we were.
and America went, no, we can tolerate the, we can tolerate not having a prejudice in our country, and we don't need to be in this war. Let's end this all. Yeah.
Well, in 1984, Vanessa Williams became the first Miss America to resign her title because of nude photographs published in Penthouse magazine.
Gee, I don't know what she looked better in, a bikini or naked. I had a hard choice on that one.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's an illegal magazine now, of course.
I know. Yeah. I know.
Because also had an underage lady in it as well.
Women have a beautiful body. I just think covered up in a bikini, they're just much more sexy. Like, it's wow.
Okay. Well,
Imagination. Leave something for the imagination.
that's it. All right. 1986, Britain's Prince Andrew married Sarah Ferguson at Westminster Abbey in London, and of course they divorced 10 years later.
Yeah, so who cares?
Yeah, I don't. 2000, Tiger Woods became the youngest golfer to complete a career Grand Slam when he won the British Open at age 24.
Isn't that amazing?
Amazing golfer, yeah.
Yeah, he turned pro at 20 years old in '96,
Mm-hmm.
and by the end of '97, a year later, he'd won 3 PGA Tour events. I mean, the Masters, and oh my goodness, it just that famous on the 15th green, I think, on the Masters where the ball it rolls in and stops
Right.
with the Nike,
Yeah.
and then
there.
drops
in. Yeah.
Yeah. That's over the top classic. A producer of a commercial couldn't have come
Couldn't
up
have
with
done that better, huh?
Exactly.
Well, in 2001, no one cares, but Pulitzer Prize winning writer Eudora Welty died in Jackson, Mississippi at the age of 92. So good for her.
Oh, there you go.
Wonderful writer. I have no clue what she wrote.
Never read one of her books, so
I have no clue
no
what
reference.
she did. So
That's right. No reference. Sorry, folks, can't help
Right.
you.
Well, in 2011, singer Amy Winehouse, 27, joined the 27 Club. She was found dead in her London home from accidental alcohol poisoning. And that'll wrap it up for this day in history. So there we are.
One question.
What?
They always say it's accidental. Do you think any of these suicides?
Yeah, I
were
accidentally
accidental?
drank a fifth of bourbon. Yeah, yeah, accidentally. I don't know how I could have done that.
Exactly.
Yeah, must have tripped.
Yes, into the bottle.
Yeah, tripped into the bottle. All right, we got to duck out here, pay a couple bills. Montana State News, Fox News, Brooke Foster weather, the Goose Ridge monuments, and all kinds of stuff. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Apologies to Sean Hannity. I got a little head on the music there. That's 24 minutes for the top of the hour. Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019, 62 degrees outside. We're looking for a high close to 90 today, Shane. Wow. Going to be nice and warm in the Gallatin Valley. So
62 degrees in the morning.
I know. Yeah, it's 62 degrees right now. That's
Now, how does the demolition squad going to explain the not having air conditioning as this proceeds? Because it's only going to get hotter, right? This, your country's in a real hot spell, baby. Ooh.
Well, it's coming down. We had a pretty hot over the weekend and whatever, but it's settling down a little bit. It's not as hot as we don't have 3-digit temperatures all over America anymore.
No.
So.
Do you have window air conditioning, or do you actually have air conditioning?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, none. We don't have air conditioning.
Yeah, window air conditioning.
We don't need it. Yeah, we don't need it here. Yeah.
Fan in the window, right? That's what I got.
That's it. Fan in the window. Yeah, that's it. In fact, the house was so hot this morning, I couldn't wait to get out of there. I don't know why it was so hot. We're not running the furnace at 60 degrees or whatever, but bedroom was nice because the windows are open. We sleep with the windows open probably year-round unless it's 25 below or something. But
yeah, you like waking up in the morning with an inch of snow on your bed.
I do. I do.
You're a mountain man. You're a mountain man.
Yes, I am, man. I'm a winter guy, so.
You really are the righteous eagle man. We really found out what he likes. He's a mountain guy.
Wife and I are polar opposites. She's always cold. I'm always hot. So I don't know.
Well, there you go.
I don't know how that works. But from our text line, suicide by alcohol often includes something else and benzos or other drugs, I guess. So.
Well, whatever drug.
Yeah, so that could be, I don't know. But anyway, all we had was what was on the daily thing there. So
yeah.
Says we got no reception in Livingston, only static. So I don't know what's going on there. So I'll have to let the people know, engineers know. Let's see. I think the original form of racism was when the Southerners didn't want to let their slaves go free, not so much by sticking up for America, but by taking offense at the haters. I say love it or leave it, too, absolutely. And we're not going to let them take us down. The Democrats have brainwashed many prospective voters, thinking we should put them on the defense, a.k.a. backpedaling. We're stupid for letting the whole racism dialogue even keep going. We've got to be smarter than them. Trump for 2020. So,
yeah, it's really strange to me, and here's why, real quick. I don't understand any of this thing about racism. Is and someone asked us last week, what's this thing about reference of a woman of color? Yeah. And I said it's a dog whistle. It's to replace the N word. But I don't think any president in your country has had to deal with what your president has had to deal with during the transition and becoming president since Lincoln. I mean, he wasn't even the president. States were seceding, and then Fort Sumter's fired on. The next thing you know, he's in the middle of a civil war, right?
Yeah.
So this whole thing about racism, it's so sad that because it's all going to come back on these people that are accusing Republicans and these people of racism when it's their party and their history that's racism. I mean, the history of racism is all on the Democratic shoulders and side. It's amazing. It's like they didn't read their history.
Well, I don't know. They this is the weirdest election that I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah. Where
you go out and trash America as your talking points.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always, America's not good, but it's not good because of the people, the evil people that are in it. It's the economy. Yeah. We're at war. It's at, but I don't know. But so many of the things that they've tried haven't worked. Abortion, they shot themselves in the foot with abortion. So they're not going to run on Roe v. Wade. And, some of these other things, they kind of shot themselves in the foot on Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. So they're not going to talk about the courts and who they're going to nominate for Supreme Court. So I don't know. I'm not sure what they're going to run on. They can't run on the economy because if they run on the good economy, then it's Obama's economy. So
yeah, exactly.
I mean, come on.
But now Warren is coming out and says, "Oh, it's overheated. There's going to be a bad recession, if not a depression."
Right. Yeah.
Like, you're going to lose everything under this president. And it's like, wow. Now she's an economist? Whoa.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she is the one that's going after the banks and, the richer group of nobody else is doing that. Everybody else is talking about free stuff for free college, free health care, free, free food, free housing, free cars, boats, airplanes, cell phones.
Well, yeah, and Kamala Harris now with this medical plan of hers, $30 trillion in 10 years.
And she can handle it with no tax increase on the middle class. So I am down with that, baby. I am down with that. Let's go. All right. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. 15 minutes for the top of the hour. It is the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Jane. Morning something. I don't know what it is. It's Tuesday. See what Tuesday does to me? It just drives me crazy. All right. It's still 14 minutes for the top of the hour. It's Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019, 62 degrees outside. And, hey, coming up this Friday, Shane and I live and in person at the Grand Tree Highlight Room. Be there. And we'd like for you to RSVP us if you would, so that we know how many people are going to attend, so we can have proper seating for you. You can RSVP on our website at kmmsam.com and go to the What's Hot bar, and you'll see an evening with Tom and Shane. Click on that, and you'll be able to put in your name and how many people are coming. And we would appreciate that very much because we don't want you sitting on the floor or standing along the wall or, whatever. And so, So we want everybody to have a seat and, get some food and all that. So we want you to
That's
be
right.
comfortable. So by all means, you can also do it on our AM 1450 KMMS app. You can get over there and do your thing there, RSVP us. And we'd love to meet you and spend some time with you. And a lot of the callers will be there. A lot of the guests will be there. So if you haven't met Jeff Kraus or Jennifer Bordy or whatever, if you want to meet those folks, Mike McCormick, by all means, come on out and talk to those folks and let them know what you think of their guest appearances or whatever. Let us know what you think. If there's things you want us to do, let us know, and we'll try and do them. But anyway, this Friday, 6 p.m. at the Grand Tree on the back side where the convention center is. We'll be in the highlight room, right to the right as you come in the back door, and we'll be happy to see you. And come on in and say hello, and we'll enjoy meeting with you.
That's right, and bring a list of questions.
Yeah, bring some questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Shane will. Shane's going to do ballroom dancing instruction. I understand.
I just want to know how many people are coming, so I know whether or not I should wear a tie.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. The more people we have, the fancier we have to look. We can't.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Can't show up in dirty jeans and boots. We gotta dress up, I guess, if we're gonna do this. So. Our poll question of the day at KMMSAM.com. After President Trump told congresswomen who are U.S. citizens to go back where they came from, do you still support Donald Trump? And 88.89% of you do, 11% do not so far, but the voting is still early. Liberals not working, are still not up yet, so they will come in force later on, I think.
So we should talk about this just for a couple of minutes.
Sure, go for it. Yeah.
The block. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not so much that I want to talk about it, but I'd like to know what your feeling is. I mean, you're a voter. You're in the hunt in this game, and so what's your thoughts? I mean, as a hypothetical, let's just for the point of this conversation, say he was misquoted or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, but how do you feel about these congresswomen? What they're saying about your country?
Well, I would have to say that Israel is an ally. Omar clearly is not a fan of Israel.
Clearly, yeah.
And the other two, I don't know, but she's been very vocal in her opposition to Israel, of course, from being from Somalia.
And neither of them are working hard about bringing home the bacon.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Well, they can't, right?
Well,
they can't bring home the bacon.
They can't bring home the bacon. Yeah. So anyway, but I think I'm not sure where we went wrong when patriotism became out of fashion or became blasé, and that flag burning is okay, and kneeling for the national anthem is now okay, and not visiting the White House is okay, and all these things that people used to take pride in America, simply because you feel badly that the election didn't go the way you wanted it to, and now you're reaping the rewards of that. You've got these four folks who have taken over the Democratic Party from Nancy Pelosi.
Right?
Color doesn't have anything to do with it. In fact, if you're calling them women of color, then to me, you're insulting them as women because they're not strong women. They have to stand behind their color in order for white people to say, well, he's insulting people of color. Well, no, he's not. He's insulting four people. If you only see them as women of color, then that's a weakness that you're going to excuse them for that they can't help.
And also, making that claim sort of, reflects on what your comments are. And they're saying that, forget about what you said, because right off the bat, you're a racist. So it sort of takes away whatever argument that you might be trying to make.
Yeah.
legitimate or otherwise, right? Because of that. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question to you this morning, because I thought this was important. So now we hear that. Okay, after the break.
What's the question? I'll answer it after the break.
Oh, the unlimited debt limit for 2 years till 2001.
All right. We got a caller. If you'll handle that, Shane, we'll be right back. All right, we're coming back. 5 minutes till the top of the hour. Let's go to the phones. Caller, you are on the air. What's going on?
Well, you said that one of the sins of the minority four is that she was very vocal against Israel. You've been very vocal against Russia or Venezuela or Somalia. Is it a crime to be vocal against a country? There are plenty of us that think Israel has overstepped its bounds of civility toward Palestine. Doesn't she have a right to speak out against the country? An example of what Israel.
She has a right to. She has a right to speak out against Israel's policy. She doesn't have a right to speak out against their religious beliefs. And I think that's where she is. She wants Israel gone, and I don't want Venezuela gone. I don't want Somalia gone. I don't want Syria gone. I don't want Iran gone or Iraq gone or Afghanistan gone. But I would like them to be a little more, nicer.
Well, all right. I don't know about because there is that famous controversy about the translation of Ahmadinejad that said he wanted to see Israel wiped off the face of the earth. Whether he was just saying he wanted it to be diminished and its power diminished, and somebody translated it, he wanted it blown right off the face of the map. If you've not stumbled across that controversy, it's there bubbling under the surface.
Oh no, I realize the implication, but Iran has also been pretty vocal, and death to Israel is pretty hard to misunderstand. Or death to America is pretty hard to misunderstand. I don't remember anybody here saying death to Iran.
You live in America, then. Drive around with trucks with slogans on them that say "Death to Iran."
Mm-hmm. Well, it could be. I just haven't heard any of our politicians say "Death to Iran," but I know the politicians in Iran are more than happy to say it for you anytime there's a camera pointed at them. So, all right. Does that do it?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, I'm still here. Are we done?
I'm still... Well, are you going to say something? I'm hearing.
I'm sorry. Do what?
Okay, Shane is talking, and he's wondering if anybody's hearing him.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
my only comment is that 40% of the population of Israel is Muslim, mostly Sunni, and they have the best lifestyle and the highest lifestyle of any Muslims in the world, and they're citizens of Israel. So I'm not quite sure that I understand, why Israel is looked upon as such a terrible country when they take very good care of their citizens.
Gotta go. Sorry, I'm up against the clock. Thanks for the call, Daniel. All right. We got to pay a couple of bills, and we'll be back with Shane and I And Jeff Kraus will be in at 8 o'clock, so we'll be chatting with him. And when we come back, we'll do some local stuff and then the 5 things you need to know as well. So hang on. Thank you, Dan. Welcome back, everyone. It's 6 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. It's Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019, 64 degrees outside. We've got a caller patiently waiting on the line, so let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number. Calling you on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Good morning, gentlemen. It's Steve.
Hey, Steve.
So first off, I had to give Shane some incredible kudos for his interception of the call yesterday right at the end of your show.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so very grateful, Shane, that you busted in and interrupted that caller's train of thought because somebody had to do it. It was so...
That's why he's here. He's not just a pretty face.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that. So what I called about this morning, though, is I find it shocking that we have so many people in this country who are willing to defend anti-Semites. And I keep hearing a pattern. They tend to defend, well, other countries do bad things too, you know? They always do this, well, because this country did this, that means that Israel's bad too. And I think it's just disgusting. It's like they completely ignore, well, they bombed the Palestinians. Well, I don't know if you pay attention to the news, but typically the Palestinians launch hundreds of rockets before Israel will do anything. It just disgusts me that these people try to justify the hate of Israel. I can't wrap my mind around it. And I don't mean to personally attack Daniel R. Peterson, but it's like he doesn't even have the information about what Israel has to deal with before he calls in to say that you're wrong for attacking an anti-Semite who dislikes Israel. What's wrong with defending Israel? What's wrong with that? I can't get my mind around it.
Well, they're our only ally in that region, for one thing.
Precisely.
I mean, that's... Yeah, and are they a perfect country? Of course not. I mean, they operate within a culture that's somewhat different than ours, and they do things differently than we do.
Yeah.
And here's a new word for context for everyone out there. As defined in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, secularism is the indifference to or rejection of the rejection or exclusion of religion and religious considerations. In certain contexts, the word can refer to anti-clericalism, atheism, desire to exclude religion from social activities or civil affairs, banishment of religious symbols from the public sphere, state neutrality toward religion, the separation of religion from the state entirely. So we live in a secularism age, in a country that has the right to free
Practice of religion.
Practices of religion. So it's an ongoing conflict in your country.
I think that accurately defines more than half of the issue, but I also think some of the issue arises from the simple selfishness of our society. When you look at, I mean, almost anybody you meet on the street, they have an opinion, and damn it, their opinion is the right one. And nobody's willing to listen anymore and change their mind, change their position because, well, I went to high school and damn it, my teacher told me this and I know I'm right, you know, and you see it all the time, this conflated selfishness that my knowledge is better than your knowledge. So because I think that Israel's a bad country, I'm unquestionably right. And that's it. There's the defense. I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. Well, if you're right,
so anyway,
you're just nothing more than a racist.
You know it. You know, I'm white, so that defines it.
I'm gonna say.
Well, the big
but
giggle
you know what I love
about
about that anymore is the word has lost its meaning.
It has,
completely.
yeah.
I just laugh at people when they call me racist. Oh, yes, I own it too.
Yeah, right.
I'm the biggest racist you've ever met. You better go get your buddies and take me down and drag me behind a truck or something like that. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to rant a little bit.
All right, good job.
Have a great day, and I'll see you Friday.
Yeah. All right, you too. Thanks, Steve. All right. Yeah. I have a little cartoon that says your race card has been declined. Do you have another Do you have another form of argument?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I always find it funny because one of the things I've realized being involved and with history and everything, particularly with the show and you, which I'm so grateful for, it's really interesting because the difference between Democrats and Republicans that I see is the Democrats that have been wrong about everything. I mean, their ideas, their efforts. I mean, I'm not suggesting they haven't tried to do anything, but I can't think of many programs, if any, that they've initiated that have worked out very well.
Well, certainly, if you want to look at the Great Society, none that have raised the bar. It's easy to get into the programs. It's pretty hard to get out of the programs.
That's right.
Once you're in, there's a comfort zone there that, oh, gee, I don't have to work and I get a check, or gee, I don't have to do this and I get a check, or if I have a couple kids, I get a check, or whatever. That's pretty hard to turn down when your alternative is, I get the money, or I have to take personal responsibility for myself and go out and get a job or do, make my own way in the world. Oh my God, that won't work. I'm voting Democrat.
That's too intense. I can't handle it.
Yeah. Let's take another call. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you're on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shay. What's up?
Good morning. This is Charity.
Charity, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Are you coming Friday?
I don't believe so.
Oh, well, that's a bummer.
Sorry about that.
Should we just postpone it and have a different night for you?
No, and it might interrupt everyone else's plans.
Okay. What's on your mind today?
I was just going to add to the conversation from the last caller, and I have been reading over the last couple years more about the Palestinian viewpoint concerning Israel, and I wanted to suggest that people read two books. They're biographies, and the first is by Elias Shakur, and it's called Blood Brothers, and it's the story of a Palestinian man who was 7 years old when Israel became a state, and his family was ousted from their farming village. And it's just his story of how he didn't hate the Israelis because he was a Christian. He was raised a Christian. His whole family had been Christian, and he later became a clergyman and then went back to Israel and does work among Palestinians. And then the other is called Once an Arafat Man, and the author is Taf Saada. And he actually had become a sniper for the PLO, and he became a personal driver to Arafat. And anyway, he had actually immigrated to the United States before going back to Israel and working with the Palestinians. But both of the authors talk about the conflict from the perspective of their own issues with the creation of the Jewish state, but also the recognition that their own people failed them tremendously, and that the British failed them tremendously, and all that kind of stuff, and the recognition that there will be no peace in Israel until Jesus returns. And anyway, I just love their perspective about the story of what happened to them and how they learned to not just forgive, but to embrace and to love their own people and their neighbors, the people that they have to live with on a regular basis. And anyway, one was written in 2014, and the other one I think was written in the 80s. But they're both really good perspectives. They've given me a really good perspective. If anybody wants to look into those, they should.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thanks for the info. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's check in on our poll question real quick. because and we got a couple more RSVPs, Shane. So,
oh, good.
Looking at that. Let's see, our poll question of the day. What are we up to here? We're up to, we're still 89% still support Trump. After President Trump told congresswomen who are U.S. citizens to go back where they came from, do you still support Trump? And 89% say yes, 10% say no.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, as I say, the liberals aren't up yet. They don't work, so they're still early. So we'll keep.
That's right.
We'll keep you apprised of the poll and how it's going. So, yeah, if you want to attend our big get together coming up on Friday night, Shane will be in town, live and in person. Wow. And
I do exist. I'm not a hologram.
Yeah. And we are going to be at the Grand Tree in the Highlight Room. That's in the Convention Center part on the back side of the Grand Tree here in Bozeman. And we'll be live and in person. We'll have fun, meet you, and some of the guests will be there. Some of the callers will be there, and you can put a face with a name that you hear on most mornings. We'll try to point everybody out to you. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we won't. We'll see if they want to be. If they want to
pointed out.
Yeah, we'll see if they want to be pointed out. But anyway, we are asking you to please RSVP, if you would, to KMMSAM.com. Look on the What's Hot bar for an evening with Tom and Shane, and click on that, and it'll ask for the name and how many people are coming, because we want to have adequate seating for everybody. We'd like to know how many people are going to be there, so by all means, show up. Let's take a couple quick calls here, and then we got to take a break. Caller, you are on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Hi there, this is Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Judy.
We are planning to come. I didn't know if we could, because I had a terrible fall on my head.
Oh.
And ended up in St. Vincent in Billings with brain surgery. But I can walk now, and I can talk now.
Well, good.
And I can't wait to meet all these people that I just love on the radio.
Well, good. Well, we look forward to meeting you. Please.
I wish Charity would come.
Yeah.
I wanted to meet her too. But I love all the guys that call in, and I can't wait to meet them.
Well, all right. Well, we'll have a good get together. So we appreciate that very much. Thank
you so much for doing this. I can't wait to see you folks.
All right. Well, good. Well,
thank you. That's really kind of you.
Yeah. Thanks very much. All right. Thanks for the call.
Be well.
522 Talk is the number. Call you on the air. What's going on?
Good morning. Hey, you know what? With all the shit going down and everything like that, you know what we forget to do? Every morning we wake up, we need to walk outside and realize what place we're really living in and how beautiful it is.
How true that is.
And what a miracle it is, right? Everything's a miracle. You look outside.
Yep.
I tell you, coming back from Vietnam opened my eyes, man. I got off the plane in Hawaii and kissed the ground. So thank God I'm alive, and thank God I'm in the greatest country club in the world.
Yep. Ditto on that, buddy. Hoorah. See ya.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. 21 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. It is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019, and 63 degrees outside. Shane and Tobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia, and Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor in the house. Mayor Jeff Kraus, the true ex-mayor, three-time mayor of Bozeman, will be in here, so we're happy to have that. Let's see, from our text line, Tom and Shane's Meet and Beat. There you are.
Yeah.
That'll work, yeah. Let's see, 8 years of Barack Obama molding people to this attitude about our country. Why is it these lefties are so willing to just, out of some type of disdain for Israel, take the side of all those crackpot dictators like Venezuela, North Korea, Afghanistan, Iran? They'll just side with the most horrible human beings on the face of the earth just to hate on Israel. Hope you guys have a fun Friday. I have to miss it due to a trip to the dreaded land of fruit and nuts, L.A. Can't make it. I'm too busy working to pay for illegal aliens, but still love Trump. Didn't Trump run on a platform of trashing America because it needed to be great again? America was a disaster and being laughed at. And how does the tanker fiasco work when Britain has been taken over by Islam and they're at cahoots with Iran? So I don't know how that works. How's that work, Shane?
I don't know, but the foreign minister of Iran, in an interview yesterday, admitted that they seized these tankers because of the tanker the British seized in the Gibraltar Straits of the Mediterranean last week.
Yeah, so payback's a bitch, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess. All right. So.
Well, it's gonna be interesting to see what Boris Johnson's gonna do.
That's true. Yeah.
I hope he goes to a salon and gets a haircut.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean,
but having said that, he's gonna take over as the Prime Minister of Great Britain tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. True.
And he is pretty intense. He's ex-mayor of London.
Yep.
One of the biggest supporters of Brexit, and. It's going to be very interesting to see how his foreign secretary and cabinet deal with the issues at hand.
Yeah. Regarding our talk on student loans from our text chat line, the government guarantees student loans so the universities increase tuition indiscriminately. The colleges get government subsidies through government student loans without calling them subsidies. On another note, if texting with app chat, there is no prompt to show you the progress of your words, and it makes it hard for you if you have to edit. Also, I still can't delete old text messages from history. Okay, we'll pass that info on to the IT guys and see if we can't correct that somehow.
So how do you think about this I sort of thought about this overnight, as a new unique solution to student debt? Mm-hmm. Since it's the government that's primarily guaranteeing these loans, right?
Yeah.
So let's hypothetical. So your child is going to go to school. It's a state college. And gets the money to go from the government, and the government provides the funds, right? For the tuition. But the deal is that they don't pay the school. They've guaranteed the tuition, but they don't pay the school until such time as maybe, say, they graduate, or maybe, say, get a job, or something to that extent. And then if they quit and give up, then they have to pay that. They do have to pay it back because they did take it initially, but with no interest. So those three things.
But without the money coming in, how do you run the university? How do you pay people out of the endowment fund, and then you replace the endowment fund?
Give me a break.
Sorry, I don't think anybody's going to touch that endowment fund. But we've got a caller waiting. Let's go to the phones. 522 Talk is the number. Caller, you are on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, it's a Polish princess.
Oh yeah, I feel very princessy.
Yeah, you're gonna be there Friday with Clint, aren't you?
Hey, I wouldn't wish it. It's my birthday. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. We've got I've got to stop and get a birthday cake then, apparently. So.
Of course, a little cupcake. Okay.
Okay, I'll bring a.
Now you're a cupcake.
Now we'll bring some cupcakes for you.
Two things I'd like to touch. Those two previous callers. Of course, they had the right. Now, this cleric who wrote a book, this Christian, Palestinian, he was born there. Two things. Palestinians, so-called the Arabs, had a choice. They had a choice when the state was established. And they chose to follow the cleric who wanted to leave. They had a choice of stay, remain. You two people better read up on the history from the 40s, 50s, and before it began changing. Actually, the facts go online. And secondary, how do you explain? I mean, if they were all kicked out, supposedly, the large Muslim population, which is about to take over the Jews, the Hebrew population there.
That's right. They are. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but
legally,
and as far as the cleric, tell if he's so caring, go and preach, try and save the Christians in, let's say, in all the countries which the Christians are being slaughtered. Isn't that more important?
Well, if you're a Christian, it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, the genocide of the Christians going on in the Middle East is horrific, and no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah, go to the countries where Christians are being slaughtered back and forth. Secondary, I've been watching this country. When I was younger, I didn't so much. I even voted for Kennedy. He sounded so great, and he was cute.
He was cute.
But that was I think it was my first vote.
Uh-huh.
That was when
Yeah, okay.
Secondary, I mean, I didn't vote technically, but I voted because I wasn't living here. I wasn't a citizen by then. I wasn't illegal.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's fascinating, I know. But
well, I have a fascinating question for you.
Yes.
Why is the Jewish community so supportive of the Democratic Party?
Secondary, that's what I'm going to explain. Not only the Jewish, but since Kennedy came in, the standards were lowered. Well, we all know why. The academic standards. Mm-hmm. It's a road to socialism / eventually communism. Like I used to say, socialism is communism in a hurry, something to that effect.
Yeah.
That's very good.
That's a good one. We got to go, darling. I'm sorry. I'm up against a break at the bottom of the hour, so got to let you go.
Me, this is
sure. Yeah, you can hang on. Yeah. Talk to Shane while I'm off the air, and we'll be right back. All right. All right. Yeah, we'll continue this conversation after the break. So, not a double dip. We're still on the line. So, we'll be right back with more right after this. Jeff Kraus will be in at 8 o'clock, so stay tuned for that. And we'll see everybody after the break right here. 24 minutes for the top of the hour. Let's get back to the phone call. Shane's been entertaining the Polish princess. How you doing, Shane?
I'm doing great. This is great.
All right. So what's going on? Let's finish up. We got another caller waiting.
I was reading him the history of Vancouver and certain apartment buildings.
Oh, well, that's boring.
But anyway, he didn't know about it because he wasn't
it wasn't boring because she's not telling you the best part. Come on, you got to tell him the best part. Who lived in the building? You got to tell him.
Well, in Vancouver at that time, 58, 59. No, that was 60. 59, 60. They put up a building called the Croydon Apartment. It was the most opulent, expensive, and it was most people who could afford. They were the mistresses and the hookers, the call girls.
Oh, well,
I remember that. Oh, yeah.
So that's what was Shane on the ground floor of that deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted the address.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Shane, once you get there, what are you going to do?
Nothing, not me. I'm just going to watch. I'm just going to be an observer.
Observer.
Yeah, he's got to observe.
But anyway, back to and I mean.
Real quick, I got a caller waiting. We got a caller waiting, so finish up real quick.
You put me off. You put me off.
Yeah, I know.
Since Kennedy's, this country has deliberately been going down through education, through welfare, and slowly where people just don't care. And whoever gives the most
gets the vote.
That's whom they vote for. And secondary, the politicians are there for one thing only, for themselves. And also why we don't invest long term, because whoever's there now, they say, I want mine now, not later. We don't invest in our country anymore for long term. So I'll let her get off the line, and I'll enjoy the rest of the international station.
Okay. Thanks much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, sweetie. Okay, bye. All right. Caller, you are on the air. What's going on?
Is Shane still on the Knox Pro staff?
Yeah, Shane's still on the...
I'm trying to rest.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, Israel is about to go down. Well, in the future because of democracy, because the majority will be, the birth rate will be Muslim. Sure.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's why Netanyahu has passed massive legislation offering huge money for his Jewish people around the world to come to Israel, all kinds of a place to live, a job, benefits. Yeah, it's a pretty big issue now.
See, what people don't understand is that the Jews bought most of that land early on in the pre-Israel days, before 1945. They had purchased most of the land. In fact, what most people don't know is that the Golan Heights was owned by the Rothschilds as a vineyard, and they annexed that into Israel because they didn't want to be taxed by the Syrians. They bought that. They purchased that indeed. They owned it outright. And so they just annexed it in. When you buy something, do you have the right to choose the country you're going to be taxed in? If I own a bunch of land in Alberta, can I say, I'd rather be taxed in the United States?
No.
Well,
no, you can't. No.
That's
You're right.
That is essentially what happened.
Yeah, I believe you've called before and talked to us about that.
So they are going to be out-democratized by the Muslim minority, which will be a majority, along with the Orthodox. If you combine the Muslims with the Orthodox Jews who don't want to be there, the Zionists are the ones who want to be there. The Orthodox Jews don't believe that Israel has a right to exist.
Well, that's been that way since 1948.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. They don't. They live there, but they're.
Well, it's just like Trump wasn't the legitimate president either, So what are you going to do? I mean, Israel's there and Trump's there, so you either vote him out or.
Those Orthodox Jews, the Orthodox Jews have to be the most conflicted people in the world because they live there, and yet they don't believe it has a right to exist. How do you rationalize that?
Well, they're the promised people. It's the promised land. Come on. They're the chosen. I'm sorry, they're the chosen people. It's the promised land. There you go.
They believe there can't be a promised land until the Messiah comes back.
Well, the doormat's out there, the welcome mat's out. Right.
And they go there, but they don't believe it should exist. I mean, how does that work?
How does that work? Well, if you believe he's coming, then
I don't think I've ever heard any politician or any leader of Israel ever say what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I've never heard them say that. Yeah. I've never heard them say that they don't think it has a right to exist. All I've ever heard them say is it has every right to exist.
The Orthodox will say that all the time. They say until the Messiah comes back and establishes Israel.
No. In the Old Testament, which is the Torah, the New Testament makes up the Bible, but the Old Testament is the Torah, and it clearly explains how they received Palestine from the Lord God, and He instructed them to go
before there. That was before they lost it. They lost it through their sin and through their turning away. That was when the first temple was crushed by the Babylonians, and then the second temple by the Romans, by Titus, and by Titus. So they lost their promised land. Now the Orthodox Jews believe that they can't have it back until the Messiah comes and establishes it.
All right.
Yeah.
That'll work, I guess.
All right.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Adios.
All right. Got to go. Be right back. 13 minutes for the top of the hour. Jeff Kraus is in the house. How you doing, man? Good. Yeah, doing all right? Yeah,
I'm doing okay.
Got
here early.
Yeah, you did. You're here early.
Well, that's because I didn't stay up late voting no on stuff.
Well, that's it. Well, we'll get into that at 8 o'clock. What you voted no on? But,
well, nothing. Yeah. We didn't have a meeting last night.
Oh, that's right.
That's why I'm all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this morning.
I was going to say, do you guys ever meet anymore?
Yeah, not in the month of July, apparently. I guess they all met on Saturday to dedicate the new park out there.
Oh, that was that was a quorum, I guess. Huh? So.
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Well, that is a big park, 60 acres, 60 football fields of park. What was the price tag on that thing?
Well, it's an interesting thing. Millions, right?
Yeah.
It costs millions of dollars, and
is that on the cities? Is that the city's millions, or is that
some of it is? Some of it was raised. The Trust for Public Lands raised a lot of money. Maddie Pope, congratulations to her, raised a lot of money. Also. The Trust for Public Lands bought the building that used to be the Big Brothers and Sisters building and donated that to the city. So that was a big addition to our parks and recreation infrastructure. Yeah. I hope it's open to the public now. For a long time, it wasn't.
Because they can use that for meeting rooms or get-togethers or weddings or any kind of thing like
kids
that.
programs. Sure, the kind of stuff that Parks and Recreation need to be doing. So. I guess just my caveat, of course, is are we going to take care of it better than we did the pavilion? Because in 1977, we were all excited about the Bogart Park Pavilion and opening it up, and what an accomplishment that was. And
that was pretty cool.
Here it is, rotted.
Yeah.
40-some years later. So maybe we can take better care of the new park than we did of the old park.
Yeah.
Haven't heard how we're going to do that yet, but or who's responsible for the old park. Heard a lot about who was responsible for the new stuff. Yay, right. Pat myself on the back.
Yeah.
Didn't hear so much about who's responsible for letting the other one rot. I guess, and so, the two were tied together in my mind. We were so busy with the new, we forgot about the old, and, suddenly found it bit us.
We talked the last time you were here, I believe, about they revamped the bandstand, and then,
tennis court
40 feet away, there's the pavilion sitting there rotting.
No one noticed that. Evidently. Yeah.
I mean, did they just go over there to get out of the sun and then walk back over and work on the bandstand some more?
Safety meetings. Couldn't notice it during the safety meetings.
I guess not. Yeah. I don't know. I think you should have the safety meetings out there until that thing's fixed.
Right under the.
And also, I'm pretty sure you have no clue where the money's coming from.
Well, and I asked that the city manager make budget cuts this year and maybe next year to fix it. But that was one voice crying.
I was going to say there's nobody in the election year that's going to cut anything.
Oh, well, we could talk about how we're borrowing. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Trillions in debt.
Yeah.
And, that's the president I'm sorry, the president should go hide under a rock somewhere for agreeing to the kind of debt that he just agreed to. It's not a victory for anybody, not veterans, not the armed services.
The 2-year budget cut or budget ceiling, whatever.
The 2-year spendorama.
Yeah, there you are. We got to take a quick break. Jeff Kraus is in the house. Shaman Taubman's on the line. And Tommy Galaffier, unelected morning mayor, in the house. We'll be right back. It is 6 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019, 69 degrees outside. We're looking for a high almost to 90, Jeff. What do you think?
Get ready. Isn't that what we just heard?
That's what we just heard.
Get ready.
Get ready.
Here it comes.
Get ready for some heat.
So apparently today is summer. This is today.
This is the day. Today is summer, and then tomorrow will start fall.
I looked at the weather. It looked like all week just a big yellow ball.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I would say, and you know what, it's surprising how many times we get a good week in July.
Well, we're supposed to get a little rain today, but after that, it's supposed to be pretty cool all week, or pretty warm and nice and sunny.
Yeah.
More like we like in July.
Yeah, well, July-like.
Yeah, right. It's more July-like.
Rather than Montana-like. Well, anyway, that's great. I think that'll be good for everyone. Just make sure you got the sunscreen on, right?
That's
and
it.
The water bottle handy.
Yep.
And don't leave your dogs in the car.
No.
There are a lot of people that say that, and then
I know.
But don't leave your dog in the car.
No,
right?
don't even take your dog in this kind of weather. Leave the dog home and under the shade or in the dog house or whatever, with a nice bowl of water and whatever, and just chill.
Yeah, they don't need to come with you while you're shopping.
Yeah,
or grocery shopping, it's you see all the dogs on the hill. They got little collapsible water.
Oh yeah,
things. Take a water bottle and a collapsible thing. So if you're climbing up to the M or something.
Yeah, or even the dog walks. Over and we got the dog walk over there in Flanders, and we got one out at the Humane Society.
We have the one on it's called Snowfield Park, home of future affordable housing, right?
Oh, okay.
I mean, we could decide as a town that the Snowfield really would be more appropriate. It was bought for the landfill, and that's why it's called Snowfield, but would be more appropriate for affordable housing than it would be for dogs. But anybody want to take $1 bet on that? That we would ever
give up a dog park? Are you kidding me? For people? I don't know. That makes no sense.
Not in Bozeman, Montana.
Not in Bozeman, Montana. I mean, holy smokes, man. I'm surprised that it just isn't full of the back of pickup trucks all over the whole ground. A dog can just get in there and sit.
Yeah. So the I guess we're making progress on whatever the next ideas for affordable housing might be, and they're all and none of them really are reduce regulations to build more housing. They make a big show of that. The thing that's very interesting about it is when you put the impact fees on, when you put the increased regulations, the $25,000, the 1/3 more expensive to build in town than out of town. When you put those things together, what you see is people come in and they look at that, and then they find the lowest house that had been affordable housing in town, the cheapest thing they can find, and they take that out of the affordable housing inventory. And that's what's happened. The pressure from the regulations, the impact fees, everything else that's happened has taken a whole layer of housing out because it's been pressured down. So people that would normally buy a newer home because it was offered at an affordable price couldn't find anything except at the fixer-upper.
Yeah.
All the fixer-uppers are gone. And once you've taken that layer, that fixer-upper layer out,
then you're in the 350 range or higher.
Then you don't have affordable. You can't have affordable housing. Well, you see it all over the West.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, unless you're going to allow rentals, in townhouses and apartment buildings.
Well, we just talked about the new park, right? And you'll remember. And to be fair, TPL bought it from the bank. They didn't buy it from and the bank got it from the people that ran all the people off from the
Bridger Trailer Park.
The Bridger Trailer Park. And my understanding always was we were going to replace like for like. We were going to have low income housing to replace the low income housing at the trailer park. Well, we're not going to. TPL came into. We're going to have. It's going to be subsidized housing, but it's going to be subsidized middle income. It's going to be essentially Cooper Park with a subsidy, and so what I think was there are absolutely.
Where does the subsidy come from?
It'll be an interesting question, right? But I think all of
we don't know yet. Huh?
I think you can count on if you live in the city, you're pitching in, right?
Okay. Sounds fair to me. Why not? Huh?
Why not?
All right, we got to take a break here. We come back. Jeff Kraus will join us. Shane Mataman on the line, and Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor in the house. This is the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane and Jeff Kraus. So stay tuned. We still got a full hour to go with Jeff, and we'll be right back with more right after this. Thank you, Dan. Welcome back, everyone. Jeff Kraus joins us on the Morning Soapbox. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've been discussing everything this morning from, I don't know, the debt ceiling to Israel and everything else. But when we left you last time, we were talking about we got a 2-year agreement, I guess, to stop the shutdown of the government yet again.
Oh.
So heaven forbid that we.
Well, if we actually have a budget, does that mean everybody has to, stop and was it really like state government and city government where they have a fiscal year end and then they have a financial statement that spits out? I find that hard to believe that they've gone so long without doing that I don't think anybody really knows what's happening in D.C.
Well,
I don't think there's anyone in D.C. It's just become too big, too unwieldy. I really like what the president's done by moving departments out of the swamp, moving BLM to Colorado and spreading it out throughout the country. I think you get a different philosophy.
Dumping 2 regulations before you can put another one in and things like that.
Yeah, all of those are good
things. But yeah, as Shane and I have pointed out many times, you if you're going to have a budget, you got to audit all of the departments, and nobody wants that because there's money missing in every department, and nobody wants to fess up that, hey, we're missing $1 million here, or 10 million, or 50 million, or whatever.
It boils down to accountability.
Well, it does, yeah.
It's too big to hold anyone accountable. I talked about who's accountable for the rotten pavilion.
Yeah.
Somebody
along the line was, but we don't know who. And, if you're going to audit an agency, was it the previous guy that blew it? Was it the guy before him or the girl before him? Or,
right.
Where do we lose this? But we've been doing the continuing resolution for so long.
Yeah, there's I have seen, right, their governments have said, well, we just can't be audited. We're going to take the hit. We're going to have a very bad audit report.
Yeah.
It's happened in Montana. And then 2 years later, they carefully rebuild their financials and they can start getting audited again. We're more like...
Well, it's different in Montana because we only balance the operating budget, not the capital budget.
Well, so in the old days of, say, Virginia, it was pay as you go, right?
Yeah.
But around Richmond, you had counties that had 2 shifts and trailers out in the 2 shifts in the schools and trailers out in the schoolyard, just to try to get by, and so they did start borrowing money.
Right.
Having a mortgage is very different from
from
paying your groceries with a credit card, right? What the national government is doing is paying its groceries with a credit card.
They are, because they've got one big budget rather than an operating budget and a capital budget as to where can we borrow and why. But we've got to balance the budget of paying everybody and keeping Social Security and Medicare and all those things in place, and then, what else? If there's any left over, or if we need a program like needy families, dependent things on needy families, or food stamps, or whatever.
Well, we're in the we still have checks left mode. So
there's still checks in the checkbook.
They haven't come and taken our credit cards, so we must be able to keep.
We're okay.
Charging.
Yeah, they keep sending us letters. We've upped your credit limit.
Congratulations.
And that's what Congress just did. They said, we'll up your credit limit to $25 trillion. So what's the deal?
They called that a victory. That's not a victory for anyone.
I know.
It's shameful, really. And I personally, I immoral is what it is, and spending beyond your means like that, and we have entrusted our country to people who are immoral, basically. And I'm not talking about what religion they are. I'm talking about their and you see it every day, right? I mean, every day you hear something from people that from Washington D.C. that make you stop and think that they, how did this person get there? And the problem, I think, is they got there because what they have to say appeals to a group of people who are only in it for themselves. And I don't know where that stops, right?
Well, but when you look at the big picture, and I think Shane would agree with this, that you've added $9 trillion in wealth to the country. So is that really an issue? Right now we're at 27.2 on the market. If the Fed lowers rates, we're going to 30 probably. What do you think, Shane?
If they lower rates, and if there's a deal done with China.
Yeah, personally, I think I believe 27.2 has the lower Fed rate already built into it.
Oh, it
right?
does,
yeah.
I think there.
I think if the Feds don't lower rates, oopsie.
Yeah, I think so. Right. Let's
and no deal with China, really oopsie.
All right. Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you are on the air with Jeff Kraus. What's up?
I think I know that guy.
All right.
Hey, Jeff, you going to be down at the Wing Ding?
I'm going to go to the Wing Ding. Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a good one. I want to ask you, Charity out there, I want to meet that chick.
Yeah, there you are.
And she's.
I'm sure she appreciates being called a chick too.
She's probably a lot younger than I am.
Well, that's true.
And I told my wife.
She sounds young. So.
Yeah, I told my wife. I said I got to get a hold of that Tom Eaglehoff and invite that Charity to our Wing Ding. And anyway, I'm doing that. So Charity, call in and tell Tom you're coming to the Wing Ding. Jeff's coming and a whole bunch of people. And we all would like to talk to each other that talk on this radio.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe we can all come up with some great solution to help everybody in Bozeman and around the world. We can sure talk about it. And it'll be wonderful to see you and the rest of the folks that are coming. And I'm inviting Bob and Patty. They live out there in the Horseshoe Hills. And they listen to the radio. I know Patty does. And anyway, I want them to come too.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got room, I hope so.
Well, yeah.
Let us know.
So. Well, it's really, really nice, Tom, at the radio station. I guess the radio station is doing it for us.
Nope, they're not. We're doing it ourselves. We're paying the bills. So
might be a bucket there.
Yeah, well, we might put a tip jar in there. I don't know.
I might give.
We're paying the freight for this deal. So the station's not. It's Town Square Media. They don't do that for talk radio. Come on.
Well, then you're going to need a little bit of help, I think.
Well, I don't know. We wouldn't put.
No, they won't let us do that, Clint. They won't
let us do that.
Hey, tell the Scott down there, Town Square Media, start divvying up.
Okay.
You tell him I said, Scott's listening. Hey, Scott, put some money there.
There you go.
Put it up there. If you need help, money-wise, I might help you. So, I got 2 or 3 pennies left, and so.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll put tip jars on the tables. We'll see.
Okay, that'll be good. But Charity, please come.
All right.
I'd like to meet you, and so would my wife, Judy.
Yeah. All right.
So anyway, tell her to call in. Come on, Charity, call in. Tell Tom you're coming.
There you go. All right.
Okay, bye.
All right. Thanks for the call. Okay.
So I met Clinton Kane's dad before I met Clinton Kane.
Oh, yeah?
That's how far I go back. I bought a master cylinder for a 49 to 52 pickup, Chevy pickup from his junkyard in November of 75, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, or no, 76 maybe. I don't know. Somewhere around there.
Back in the day.
In the mid 70s. And then I met Clinton when I was working in the county treasurer's office. So that was in the 90s. I think Clinton, like a lot of people that listen, know what the solution, as he talks about, what's the solution? That is the things that we know are right, some of which are live within your means. Treat your neighbor as yourself. Tell the truth. There's just a simple group of things that people can do that actually would, quote, clean up the swamp. But I don't see it. I don't see that happening because there is an entrenched mindset in District 1 of Columbia and in many of the cities. And I think it's very hard to go to a big city and go to some of the distressed areas and have, and this is for the people that live here in Bozeman, right? And to say, well, boy, we've got it terrible in Bozeman, or we're not getting our share here because truly the policies that have driven the cities into the ground and where they sit now, how do they get turned around? We keep voting the same people into office, and there will be a reckoning for that out of those cities. There simply will be, and you hear it in the voices of the candidates on the Democratic side, none of which echo anything about what I just said.
Yeah. Well, all we have to do is look at the tent cities that are popping up in every major city on the West Coast, pretty much. And, you can't walk down the street without dodging a landmine,
right?
On there that somebody left for you. So
human feces, outdoor toilets. So those are mental and drug.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And so it was, after all, the one side of the aisle that said, "Oh, you can't keep people in mental institutions."
Yeah. Well,
so all the mental institutions were eliminated. Now.
Yeah. Anybody that couldn't commit you was dumped out on the highway or kicked to the curb.
Literally. Yeah. Dumped out onto the highway. There was no.
I hate to remind everybody, but it was the Kennedys that forced that issue because of the frontal lobotomy. Their child, Joseph Kennedy's daughter, had a frontal lobotomy. And when they saw what happened to her because she had been institutionalized, they were the one that legislated to empty these institutions and send people onto the street on drugs.
Yeah.
So once again, the Democrats came through with a great policy.
Well, I'm not advocating for frontal lobotomies, right?
No. That's not what I said.
Yeah. No, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. So anyway, we'll be right back right after this. So hang on. It is 22 minutes after the hour of 8 a.m. It is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019, and Jeff Kraus is in the house. Shane Bataman on the line. Tommy Goloff, your morning mayor, in the house. And
I know Shane wasn't advocating for them either, right? We all know that, Shane.
We do know that.
But it is an entry story. That did happen in the 60s and 70s, that the mental institutions were closed.
Yep.
Now Tom and I were talking about our future home. That is the where we stack all the elderly people up in some kind of dormitory and come by and check their diaper, our diaper every once in a while. But how we take care of the marginal citizens in this country has deteriorated, and that's the 10th cities, right? I mean, that literally is. Those are the marginal people. Now, what's the answer? I think people don't want to know what the answer is, but when you're giving money to increase the size of government and not increase the size of what you're providing people on the street, then you're not, then you're just looking after yourself, and that's what Washington D.C.'s problem is they look after themselves first.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but I got to vent. I think it's all hogwash. I think the whole thing about homeless in your country and ours is a political football. I think it's a denial on the part of the political elite to solve the problem. You have a cabinet position called human or HUD, or urban, what is it?
Housing and urban development.
Urban development.
Yeah.
They have major property ownership in cities like New York and Boston. They could either move people out and sell them and make massive amounts of money without raising or getting any money from your federal government, and build in rural and other parts of the country besides the East Coast. In my country, it's the same thing. They dodge the bullet. They raise money. They tell us they're raising money for low-cost housing. Every city does. Yours does. I mean, this park you talked about, didn't they spend $20 million on that over 2 years?
No, it isn't that much. No, but you're right in that it was many. But the opportunity cost of that is significant. But most of the money was raised.
Did they spend $10 million over 2 years on that park?
I don't have a full accounting because I don't know.
Tom and I remember having this conversation with Jeff, and I remember it being $20 million. The point is, it started out as wilderness. So you took wilderness and turned it into a park at between $500,000 to $1 million a month over 2 years. Like, give me a break.
But most of the money was raised.
Well, yeah, but that's the whole point. It's all misdirection. That money should have been raised for housing. Why didn't they take that acreage and build housing on it? Come on. If you're going to solve the problems, there's many countries around the world that have invested in this for 70 years and don't have this issue. And it's very sad that both our countries are guilty of failure.
Right. I think you definitely they tore the trailer park down. The people that did that failed. The bank took it over. The people that bought it said, "All right, we're going to replace the housing for those trailer park people." They're not going to do that now.
Yeah. Well, the regulations would prevent it. The city regulations would prevent that kind of investment for a trailer park, would they not?
No, I don't believe so. I think
but don't you have to have streets and gutters and curbs?
You do.
You got to have all that stuff. And to put trailers on it would...
Well, it doesn't make economic sense.
No, it doesn't. That's what I mean.
But it's a perfect example of failure on part of government. That land should have been acquired by the city and low-cost housing built there, period. End of subject. Mm-hmm. Anybody that denies otherwise is lying to people, telling them they're paying taxes for low-cost housing, and you have no intention of you doing it, or you have no interest in solving the problem. And I'm only saying this because I see it here in Vancouver all the time. We built a multi-million, $100 million Olympic Village that was supposed to turn over to social, low-cost housing. And so, what the city government did here for 8 years? The city government said, we can't rent it. We need to find management, people to properly manage it. The people we hired didn't do a good job and couldn't rent it. After 8 years and no aggravation, no outrage, they sold the property and made a fortune on it. It's typical.
Boy's on a roll, isn't he?
No, I haven't heard anything I'm disagreeing with at this point, right? And I think he echoes my point, right? Yeah, we have this beautiful new park, and we're going to have this beautiful new subdivision out there. I don't know if they've done away with the gate across the street yet in the design, but
going to be a gated community.
Yeah, it's got a chain across. The proposal had a chain across where anyone would turn into it, and instead. Have said, well, apartments just wouldn't fit in with the scale of the community.
Of course not. Let's take a phone call before we have to take a break. Caller, you are on the Morning Soapbox with Jeff, Kraus, Tom, and Shane. What's up?
This is Judy.
Yeah.
And Shane is right on, completely right on. We have got more parks than coffee shops. It's ridiculous. So I'm just saying, good for you, Shane.
All right.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you. All right.
There we have more parks than we can take care of, right? I mean,
you're gonna put a $200 bill on the ballot coming up,
and that's going to make housing more affordable.
Oh yeah, it will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys set up every subdivision's got to have X acres of parkland or feet of parkland or whatever.
That's true. Yeah.
And, I haven't looked at a map of Bozeman, but I would bet there's probably clusters of parks here and there's nothing over here, or, or they're on the end of one subdivision and there's miles with no park, and then another subdivision has a little park. And I don't know that, but
I think the newer parts of town have a pretty well connected.
They're
park
pretty well
system.
connected.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I know we used to walk to the grade school and play basketball and baseball
absolutely.
and whatever.
Yeah.
We didn't go to,
Back in your day, you turned on the water. You took a wrench and you unscrewed the fire hydrant and played in the water.
That's
didn't you?
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
With Babe Ruth.
That's right. Yeah, I was born before fire hydrants, so I don't know.
Or how to use them.
Yeah, that's true.
Learn to swim in a puddle in the street.
That's right. All right, we got to go. We'll be back when we come back, Jeff. I got a couple of emails questions for you, and Shane's got our list.
The list.
So we'll go to the list and the emails right after this. 24 minutes for the top of the hour. Jeff Kraus is in the house, and from our, we got an email, Jeff. I might have missed this. I want to know about the medical arts building and know what the plan is for the VA clinic. And you and I have decided we don't know about the VA clinic, but we do know that the medical arts building, the single-story building over there where the eye clinic and the same-day surgery is, and the VA clinic has been sold.
Yeah.
So those people are either gonna leave them there paying rent, or they're gonna do something with that building.
They're gonna build 5-over-1 housing, which is what everybody does around the corner. I mean, it's just 5 stories over a park.
Okay, wait, whoa, slow down again. So this was a city property.
No.
Okay, and the city didn't bid to buy it.
No, we couldn't. We're not in the real estate business.
Well, sure you are. If you're going to build housing, low-cost housing for people, you're going to own the property, are you not?
We're not going to build it.
No.
We're not in the building business either.
No, that ain't going to happen.
So we're not in the building business. We're not in the real estate speculation business, right?
We did buy the SAE house, of course.
Well, that was on the south side where the wealthy people are, of course.
That's right. Yeah, we had to do that.
Did you say it would be speculation?
Yeah, real estate speculation.
Yeah, we can't do that. Yeah.
So here's what happened.
How would you ever explain that to the taxpayer, that you're out there buying property for low-cost housing? I mean, gee whiz.
Well, and of course the federal government does that. Housing and Urban Development does that, and whatever
that's right.
They did definitely do
so
that.
they should come in and buy the
projects, right?
This is not complicated. So in 10 or 15 years after you've had it used for low-cost housing, and the city's expanded, and all the infrastructure's expanded further out, which will happen, then you sell that property at a massive profit and buy outside the edge that's now been expanded to with access and buses and all the infrastructure, and buy a lower cost piece of property to build new housing. Wow, what a development idea. Who came up with that concept 100 years ago?
Or you tear it down like the projects at Cabrini Green, right?
Yeah.
Because they become overrun with drugs and vice. I'm just not sure that's the answer, right?
Like the park that rotted because it wasn't managed. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There you are.
So anyway, medical arts building, Shane's rant notwithstanding, was a privately owned piece of property that was sold to someone else that's a private owner.
Yeah.
What they're going to do with it, they have not proposed yet.
Okay. So let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you are on the air with Jeff and Tom and Shane. What's up?
How's it going, guys? This is Mike in Manhattan.
Mike, how you doing?
Not too bad. So all these problems are the symptom of one problem, and that's the inequality in our country, which now has exceeded the inequality that was here before the Great Depression. And let me give you an example of one thing. The school in Big Sky, so they're going to build a house for the teachers. Why can't they just pay the teacher enough to live in Big Sky? They get enough they have enough people with money to pay taxes so that they can pay their teachers well enough to live up there, don't they? I mean, it seems backwards to me. you're basically
Good
taking
point.
away a freedom of someone's choice to, pay them enough. And if they want to live up there, then they can live up there. If they want to keep the extra money and drive every day, then that's their choice, right?
Yeah, wasn't the hospital going to do something like that with that big piece of land across the street from the hospital? They were going to put up housing and rentals and stuff for that.
I'm not
that would
sure,
be I want to say it was for either rent or to buy.
Yeah, that's not a.
Yeah.
There was not employee housing, and MSC. There's a lot of talk over the years about employee housing and encouraging employee housing. The schools in the education business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do work on the HRDC apartments in Big Sky right now, and they're not affordable for someone to work there. You're going to have 2 or 3 roommates just to afford those. I mean, it's just the inequality in this country is causing so many problems that people aren't seeing. It's sad, actually.
And where do you think that inequality dividing line exists?
Because we've given way too much power to the corporations and the rich, and they're just acquiring more power and more money. I mean, it's just, you need to have a progressive tax rate or to just kind of put a cap on it, Like back in the day, the 91% tax rate, that was actually a compromise with Republicans. The Democrats wanted a maximum wage,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And look at when our country was doing the best, the 50s and 60s. You had the highest union membership. You had the highest tax rate on rich people. I mean, like John Wayne, he wasn't ever a millionaire because he got taxed at 75% after 370,
something like that. Yeah. It wasn't a lot of money. Yeah.
So then you wouldn't have your elite, you wouldn't have your Hollywood elite anymore. You could put the cap way high on that high tax. You could put it at 10 million. I think that's what Bernie's proposing.
Yeah, but still don't think that's going to produce.
Power.
I don't think that's going to produce enough, though. I think there's been all kinds of studies made on that you could tax them 100% and it wouldn't be enough to pay down the debt.
Yeah, but I think his point is
the debt kind of goes away with inflation, though.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
By the way, so does your income and your spending power. It goes away with inflation too.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what's happened in this country, right? As the inflationary rate for housing and food and just not TVs from China, but a lot of things, have eaten people's income up.
Yeah.
Buying
a house with a 30% of your income or less is harder to do.
Is much harder to do. Yeah. And I would say, look at what stuff cost in the 50s and 60s compared to what people made, and transport that into the future to here, to the current time, and you'll see some massive changes.
Well,
he's right. And the question for me is, when do you get to this confiscatory? Where you're just taking people's money, this confiscatory tax rate. Where does that start? And I don't know. I don't buy it, but I want to know what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the government's job is to tax, spend, and regulate, right? Well, they ain't doing any of that. All they're doing is passing judges and talking nonsense about each other.
Actually,
that's all they do.
I think the government's job is to protect individual rights. That's my feeling.
Well,
that's what governments are instituted among men, to protect individual rights. That's what we believe as Americans.
Well, more specifically, that's Congress's job, is to tax, spend, and regulate.
No, wrong. Everybody,
what do you mean wrong?
Wait a second. No. It is not the responsibility of the executive or legislative branch to protect the minority. It's the job of the judicial branch.
Well, let's talk about this that never gets talked about. I'd like to hear your guys' opinion on what the Third Amendment means.
All right, we'll have to do that after the break.
All right, and I'm going to hang up. All right, you guys have a great
Thanks
day.
for the call. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, we'll be right back with Jeff, and we'll talk about the Third Amendment, because Shane knows the Constitution better than anybody I know. So he'll be right back to explain the Third Amendment right after this. Welcome back, everyone. Jeff Kraus is in the house, 3-time mayor of Bozeman. Tom and Shane on the line, and we got a caller patiently waiting. So, caller, you are on the air. What's going on?
Hey, guys. Hey, I just wanted to bring up the fact that the city is in the building industry, and they overregulate it. That's what they're doing, and they have a massive effect on what's happening. And all the fees they charge, all the inspections, all these hoops we have to jump through. It's expensive, and this is driving the price of homes up, the price of buildings. That's why people are choosing to build outside of the city. I used to do a lot of work over in Jackson Hole, and I built this huge house for a guy, and he had 20 acres, and he lived literally like a half a mile from high density housing, low income housing supposedly in that area. But they made him tear his old house down where he could have gave somebody a job and lived in his old house. They forced him to rip his old house down because his new house was big, right? You can only have so many square footage on your property. And so these types of regulations are just stifling. Let people do things, within reason, but my goodness, I don't know. It's frustrating.
I hear you. Yeah. Hey, thanks for the call. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. I would think some regulations have come from somebody brought them in from someplace else, and do they really apply to Montana? But I know that we have a state code.
Yeah, I don't think he's talking about the building codes.
Yeah.
And yes, that's right. I believe it's between 30 and 50% more expensive to build in the city of Bozeman than outside the city of Bozeman.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got an affordable housing task force that's hell-bent on raising that discrepancy, by the way. They are, and in fact, what they're looking at, by the way, is the next commercial. So let's say that a new business moves to town. So, you name it. What's your favorite business out there in the world that you want to see move to town? They would have to provide housing for their employees before they move to town.
Yeah.
What are the odds of them moving to town? Zero. What are the odds of them moving to Belgrade or the county? 100%. So that is happening. Listen, people ask, what's going on with the medical arts building? It's sold. I suspect if you pay attention to what's going in right across the street from the hospital, just to the west of the old hospital, I believe that's a 3/1 or a 4/1, which means the first floor is either parking or commercial, and then the other floors are residential. I think you're going to see that over top of the where the old medical arts building used to be.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think it's going to remain a one-story medical arts building.
Yeah.
I don't know that. There has been no application. But in knowing what's going on Willson, as you drive by, you can
how many
see what's
stories
going on
do we have as a peak?
Well, it depends. That part of town is in B3, so that's 70 feet, right? And the medical arts building itself, the tower.
So you could put up a 5-story building there pretty easily.
Yeah, the tower is what, 4, 3.5, something like that. The tower, not the one story, but
I'm
the
thinking
tower.
of the old armory. Obviously that's going to be as tall as the Baxter by the time it's done.
That's a special case.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so, we've got a thing unless you go to a special case.
So 70 feet. 55 along Main Street, outside of Main Street on the other side of the alleys, this side of the alley, 70. The Armory building is going to be 80. And yes, there are some other, but B3 is a larger area. Anyway, I would expect to see 3 or 4 story buildings over, 3 or 4 stories over parking or commercial.
Okay. All right. Shane, we had a question about the Third Amendment.
Well, you called it just before you went off the air. It's a building. It's about housing of soldiers. I think it was just a sarcastic comment because, it's one of the amendments to your Constitution that doesn't get very much attention.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm surprised I remembered what it was. All right. I'm going to turn you down so you can cough, all right? Cough away. We'll take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on?
Well, I have to respond to that caller earlier who talked about wealth inequality.
Yes.
And he talked about we need to put more on progressive income taxation. You know, anyone should look this up. Go and look up the share of total income taxation that is paid by the rich as compared the richest 1%, 5%, et cetera, compared to the rest of the population. You will see that the percent paid by the rich has gone up over the last 30 and 20 years, and anyone can look this up. Our tax code is more progressive than most countries. The rich are paying more than their fair share, and their share has gone up, not down. So if they're really in charge of the government, they're doing a bad job of protecting their own interests. So the guy was just wrong. There was so much wrong information in one phone call.
So
he talked about he talked about the good old days of 90% tax rates. No one paid those rates.
No,
everyone had deductions, investments, etc.
Yeah, you could take your wife on a trip and deduct her expenses as well back then. So.
Right.
Thanks for the call.
That is a great call. Also, it seemed to me he was calling for curing the wealth inequality through income taxes, and that's just
not gonna
that
work.
isn't going to work.
Gotta go. Rush update is next. Here's Rush. All right, here we are again, up against the clock.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for everybody for calling and listening. I think I'm off next week, but we'll see you in August.
All right. Say goodbye, Shane.
Goodbye, Mayor. I'll talk in the morning. Have a great one.
All right. All right. Thanks, man. All right, we got to go. We'll see everybody bright and early tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. So be nice to each other. And, hey.
Have a bright, sunshiny day.
Have a bright, sunshiny day. Hey, we'll see everybody tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.